My name is Mark Sherwood. We had some travel challenges. Erica Schroeder was supposed to be here to be able to present. She had some conflicts as well as some other issues. So anyway, I'm here. My name, again, Mark Sherwood. I am responsible for unified communications and video from the IT organization at Cisco Systems. And what we're going to talk about today is business video and basically the business case for video in the enterprise. So I'm happy to see a number of people here until someone told me that the one next door is canceled. So I'm not actually feeling quite as good as I was until that person told me, but I won't call her out because she's on my team. So we'll just let that go. Anyway, so I am fortunately joined today, and all of these people will probably live on the West Coast because they're all able to join us here today. So anyway, I joined here from my left, starting out. I'm probably going to slip and say Michael, but I believe it's Mikkel, right? Kata, who is CEO of Quantumverse. Next is Bill Beasley, who is Executive Director from the Society of Piping Engineers and Designers. And then Eric Hards, who is Manager of Digital Media and Streaming for Lockheed Martin. So again, what I'd like to do here first is to let each one of them have a couple of minutes go through an introduction. I think a couple of them have slides, so we'll quickly go through some slides. And then what I'm going to do is basically toss out a barrage of questions to them, see if they can get them all in the time allotted. And then what I'd also like to do is open the session up to questions from the audience. I'd like to be hopefully a collaborative session, so if you do have questions for the panel, please feel free to interrupt. I'd rather do that than try and save the 10 minutes at the end because the way these things go, we'll never get the time. So if you do have questions, please just raise your hand and we'll get the panelists to respond. So having said that, Cal, let me get your slides. I think yours is business case for video here.
Thank you, Mark. My name is Michael Kara. I'm the CEO of Quantumverse, and I would like to give you some thoughts, some ideas how you can structure a business case for your company, for your organization. I guess if you go to your management and say, hey, I think we need a video solution, it's probably not going to work. And you need some more beef behind it, some more data, some more structure. And I give you some of those pieces which might be useful in building your business case. And I want to start with the following. So I'm just trying to figure out how it's working, right? So video, that's the big question. Video in the enterprise, is there a case for it? So let's start with the following thought. Video is a great vehicle to convey your message. It's a more personal way to communicate than text message. I'm even tend to say that video might be the new text, meaning it's replacing or a lot of what is currently today communicated in text in Word documents. It might be in the future as video as the default setting. So video can play a very important role in the social enterprise. I think it's important to put together video in context to what? All corporations, as far as I'm concerned, I know, are trying to realize the social enterprise vision, meaning a more connected, a more knowledgeable information, and hopefully giving them a competitive advantage. And the picture, the vision I have, is always if a company could work like a brain, meaning the brain cells, if you would replace them with people, and the connections between those brain cells is the information flow which can naturally happen, such as in a brain, then the organization would be so much more quick in adapting to change, in knowledge. It goes actually where it's supposed to be to fulfill a certain task, a certain mission, and overall the goal and vision of the company. So if we look at this from a less abstract point of view, let's think about the reality, as you can see here on the next slide. The reality is most corporations have a highly distributed workforce, meaning offices here, offices overseas, offices in Asia, and it's a challenge to reconnect those employees so that the information flow can happen freely to make the most informed, most knowledgeable decisions. And that where video literally can play a key role. If you don't mind to go to the next. So what I'm trying to do is I give you now kind of like a checklist, and it might be useful. You might add some things, or you might discard some of the points I'm trying to make. And basically, what I'm always tend to start is you need to have the question raised, what is the business problem or the business problems you're trying to solve? Is it you have, knowledge silos? Is it people, the training as you do it today or the learning as it's happening today is not working? Is it that executives want to reach out instantly to the global workforce wherever they are at the same time? So that brings us to the next point, which is you should define the use cases. What do you want video used for? Is it for learning? Is it for product campaigns? Is it for executive communications? Is it and so forth? Hand in hand, when you think about use cases, you also need to think about who is the audience in these use cases who should use the videos for, right? And then the next one is, if you don't mind, and I have a finance background, so I always got this question, give me the cost-benefit analysis. How much does it cost me, and what's the return? And try to quantify that as much as possible. And then the last piece is, how do you measure success? So you got the green light, you made the case for the business that you need a video solution. You have identified the use cases, the audiences, and then you even came up with a very good cost-benefit analysis. How do you want to measure that you have accomplished what you actually were going out in the first place? So here I give you a few ideas of what use cases can be, and actually these are examples I have seen across different companies, and I just want to point out a few. Executive updates are a key reason why corporations are implementing video solutions. Another one is best practice sharing, connecting the employees and ensuring that somewhere in the organization somebody can benefit from the know-how and experience gained somewhere else. And that hub can be video, and the way it can be communicated is through video. Another one is, a very popular one, is new hire ramp-ups. Especially when you have a very high distributed workforce, you say you have branches, and you have 2 people here, 3 people there, and then at least the basics you can capture on video in Module 1, Module 2, like the 101 of being a salesperson, for example, and you can literally accelerate the productivity and at the same time also create consistency if you would like to create like the role model of a salesperson. The good thing about video is it is a much more personalized message than typing an email or a Word document. You hear the voice, you might even see the person, so you can connect much better with the person. So that's some of the advantages. Video is far, far superior than, kind of text-driven types of communication. So I hope these are some of the use cases which might, useful to you. I talked about the costs and the benefits. Let me talk about the costs first. Basically, in generally, you can do a TCO calculation, total cost of ownership. And there you distinguish between 2 types of costs. It's the direct costs or the IT costs related, and then the running cost or the operations cost of running actually what you have created with your hopefully fantastic IT solution. And some of the points, I'm just more like a checklist for you, is like you have hardware costs, right? You probably have licensing fees. You need to manage the solution. You need to support the solution, and especially when you start creating a completely new solution within your company, you have deployment costs, right? So those are the big buckets you need to anticipate and hopefully create a type of TCO analysis calculation which should go into it. And ideally, you run it over 1, 2, 3 years because you have more cost in the beginning, but hopefully, it's going to be amortized over the life cycle of your investment. The indirect cost is, as I just want to point out as well, is the program management. I watched earlier this morning a session from Molly. She was showing her operations part, and it can be quite significant. And it's important to factor those parts of costs into. You need probably a program manager or someone who is running the program. You need probably someone who is running the business operations side. Especially when you start launching a video-driven knowledge-sharing initiative, you got to have some marketing in there. You probably will kick it off with a marketing campaign, for example, in the company meeting. You will have a rewards and recognition program. You will reward people for downloading or contributing. So those are the kind of the pieces which run into the direct or indirect cost bucket. And now let's talk about the benefits. The benefits I distinguish again between financial and non-financial benefits. The financial benefits, what I have seen is a lot taking place with substitution. Suddenly, certain type of trainings are being substituted through short videos. Before, there was spent a lot of money to create those videos, those trainings, and suddenly it can be done very cost-effectively through videos. You probably don't need the venue anymore, the training material, the trainer, and you can distribute it and scale it instantly to wherever your employees are or your workforce is sitting. Another one is, especially when you have fast-moving product cycles, fast-turning product cycles, you don't want to create training or updates, the expensive way. You just create a video, for example, or a live webinar and say, hey, the product is not launched yet, but these are the key criteria or key things the new product will be able to provide to our customers, so that salespeople, when they get, for example, questions from their customers about the new product, they can already intelligently and knowledgeably answer those questions. Initiative updates is a very popular one as well. And what I always have seen is that marketing campaigns where they printed a lot of sales materials, marketing brochures are being substituted actually with videos, and just having as an attachment for printout those type of bill of materials for marketing and for sales professionals.
So, Mikhail, let's see if we can summarize a little bit here, because I want to make sure we get a chance to talk
to Bill. So
I'm
almost done. The non-financial benefits with video, you have a much higher audience reach, and by default, the cost per download goes down or per employee goes down, especially when you have a central library of videos. So I will skip the rest of the non-financial benefits. I'm sure those will be available later on. I have one more thing. It is about the measurement. As I said before, when you launch an initiative, you want to measure how successful you are over the lifetime of it, and it can be reach-related metrics such as downloads, such as the number of employees you have reached, the percentage of certain roles in your organization, such as sales roles, or financials. Where did you generate cost savings as a result of implementing video in the enterprise? Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you, Mikhail. Okay, Bill, let me get your slides up here real quickly, and then if you want to give a quick introduction, and then I'll let you...
Hear me okay? I'm executive director of a society, and unlike convincing investors or management of some big return, I have to make a profit right now. So I'm going to go ahead and take the liberty of giving you a little case history on what we've done with video and why I think my plans for the future are that I think I can make a profit on. And even a nonprofit society has to make a profit or it goes out of business. So how do I get this to work? There we go. Give you a little bit of timeline. 1993, we videotaped some courses and we sold them as a set of VHS tapes. It was 33 two-hour VHS tapes. In 2003, we reformatted those as video CDs for reproducibility. They were 66 one-hour video CDs. In 2004, we moved the video CD images onto a hard drive, and the VHS tape sales collapsed completely. They've never sold another set again. Okay? I wonder why. And it was 15 gigabytes. Okay, let's see how do I get this to go? Oh, I've destroyed it.
Nice.
See? How do I do this?
Hang on. I get it.
See, everything collapsed.
Hang on.
So, in 2007, we I recorded the Piper Boot Camp of the plant layout class using Camtasia as voice over PowerPoint. Very simple system, cheap. The playing, after editing, the playing time for each course was 23 hours instead of, I guess, 66 hours. That's 2/3 the time of the course was eliminated just by doing voice over PowerPoint. Then we started selling the Piper Boot Camp and the process plant layout, both versions, the old and new, together as a 20 gigabyte hard drive. Okay, in 2010 we converted those through a training situation, converted those to SWF files, flash files, and moved it on to Moodle. And from then on, we offered our courses online. Next slide. In 2010, we attempted to wirecast our annual meeting. We had 3 people watch the wirecast, and one was the wife of the keynote speaker. Okay.
Wife and the daughter.
I think it was a promotional problem, but I think also people didn't understand what streaming was at the time. In 2011, we tried to wirecast webcast our annual meeting again, and the bandwidth at the hotel choked completely. I'm not quite sure why. We tested it as a wireless webcast before the meeting started. As soon as we got into the meeting, the bandwidth of the hotel collapsed. And I think it has something to do with everybody brought in their smartphones and all the people in the hotel checked in, and they all got online and started watching their online videos or getting their mail. Because of that experience, we did not stream this year's annual meeting. And also, we plan to bring out something I'll call SPED TV, which was going to be most of our video collection was going to be put online. But because Wowza, it's a good streaming situation, but because it's not programmable by occasional users like myself, my doctorate's in mechanical engineering, and I have to go to my programmer who plays the high priest of how to program Wowza. We didn't put our videos online. Still haven't done that. Next slide. In 2012, though, we released new versions of these 2 courses, which are absolutely essential for certification. It's a huge drive between them. We uploaded them again to Moodle, revised them, and now they're down to 5 gigabytes. I could put the entire course on a micro SD card and play it in my cell phone. And I often do that to show people. I can play my videos on a cell phone. Now, I'm trying to charge $12,000 for this set of courses, and I can't mail them a microchip as their product. I just can't do that. They won't see the value in it. I just know it won't work. So I'm faced with a dilemma. So how do I get value out of this? But that question's not answered. But also, we did one other interesting thing that I want to show you, and that is we posted the introductions to every module. We posted those to a YouTube channel and set up a playlist. Let's see. Let's go to the next slide. This is what happened when we posted those introductions to a YouTube playlist and began to promote it. You see how the views in the top took off We're now getting about 1,600 views a month. And look at the sales of our video training, online video training classes that track pretty close to that. Of course, we've had a great time. We're in the oil business, so that's not hurting us. But there is a relationship here between the availability of these introductions on YouTube and our sales of training. I mean, I've quadrupled our training. So, next slide. What do I think is the future? I can't get these pipers that I am trying to teach and keep informed. I can't get them to come to a public meeting. They can't leave their desk. They're hourly people. They're making $100 an hour. They're not going to take $400 or $800 salary hit and come to a public meeting. No way. I've got to find a way to deliver training to them where they sit. I have to. They're just not going to go. Secondly, I think something like a video brown bag topic, or I don't know. I don't have my ideas straight on that. Secondly, we're selling online courses as blocks. Now, I don't think I'm going to sell videos directly to people anymore. I think I'm going to sell online training and let people go online and take a course and just not deal with the idea of delivering the video to them as a thing to own. Certifications is definitely the driver, and I think eventually we're going to have to stand up something I'm calling SPED TV. I don't know what that is yet, but it's going to have to be our videos somehow 24/7. And the problem is that when I stand them up, I've got to find some way to tell people what's coming at 2 o'clock and what's coming at 3 o'clock. I don't know how to do that yet. I'm not quite sure how that's going to happen. Next slide. I'm convinced, and I'm paying the price for believing this with scars, but I'm convinced that video is the new channel to speak to people. I'm convinced of it. They just don't have the time to keep up just through reading magazines. Magazines themselves, if you look at magazines, my favorite thing is to look at a magazine and count the ad pages. Magazines have become pamphlets. Nobody's advertising them anymore. If they want to find a product, they go online. Want to find information, they Google. I mean, there's nothing in magazines. Magazines are almost a dead medium, unless you're a bride, you're looking for a wedding dress. It's almost a dead medium. How do we monetize this? How am I going to monetize this? I think through member value. Members want to be associated with it, be able to see the content, and then get certified, which we do offer. I'm not sure live streaming is good for us. This is going to be as important as timeliness. It's recording an interesting technical event and getting it out quickly. Timeliness is going to matter to them. You know, SPED is the place to go to get the right information right away. And the other thing, and that is my biggest headache, I don't make my money being a video guy and talking about the cloud and all these fancy words. You know, now I realize you got to make a profit, so you have to have some fancy words. But I need appliance technologies. I don't know how a phone works, but I use a phone every day. I don't know how the PC works all the way inside. I know a lot, but all the way inside. But I use it every day. I don't know how Word is programmed. But I need an appliance technology that I can pick up. I could say, okay, here's my video. I want it uploaded, and I want people seeing it in 10 minutes. And I don't want to know how it's done. Don't want to know. That's why I love YouTube. It's so idiot-proof. And it's great for an idiot like me. Okay? It's not. So if you want to contact me, these slides will be available. My contact information is available. I hope that was a different perspective. So.
Very nice. Thank you, Bill. Eric.
I only have about 146 slides.
All right, ready to go. You just tell me when, and I'll hit them. And you got about 30 seconds to get going.
I actually don't have any slides. I was actually quite intrigued by Mark's set of questions that he sent. So I was hoping he would throw some of those at us.
I will. And just for being so nice, Eric, I'll ask you the first one.
Oh, great.
You know, from a video standpoint, right? So we look at, and actually Mikkel had shown some of the more kind of qualitative versus quantitative, right? There's ones that you can actually attach a dollar figure to, and there's some that are much harder to attach a dollar figure to, like the overall experience, improving relationships with your employees, getting more face-to-face contacts, making business decisions more quickly, things like that. So Eric, when you look at it, when you're looking at a true ROI that you can actually measure versus some of these that are more qualitative than quantitative, is for Lockheed Martin, is that a mix of the two? Is it more focused on the hard numbers to say we've got to be able to drive a true video deployment? Do you really have to prove these metrics out, or is it something where you can say some of them you just got to buy in and drink the Kool-Aid?
Yeah, that's a good question. I threw out a Twitter post right before this that I'm seeing a trend just today with the idea of start somewhere, build something, show it to someone, and someone's going to bite. And I know it gets some laughs, but that's actually how I developed the infrastructure we have today at Lockheed Martin. We set up a computer and said, let's see if we can put a video on it. And what do you know, it streamed. And then I'm suddenly in a meeting with the CIO explaining why we can do YouTube 5 years later. But during that time, we developed on-demand video. We started doing live streaming internally to small groups, then large groups. Then now I've finally, after 7 years of promoting video internally, moved to an entire enterprise-wide system. So that's a very slow way, I guess, of doing that. But really nowhere during that time did anyone say, well, we're not going any farther until you show me what the ROI on this is. They saw the benefit in what was being produced. They saw that they could communicate to a lot of people relatively simply. They saw that they could create a message which was standardized across the entire corporation as opposed to handing out a bunch of slides to a bunch of presenters who might deliver it differently. So they could see that physically. Now I'm getting questions, however, that I'm at the enterprise level and I want to see monthly metrics. I want to see how many views, how much are they watching, how long did they watch. So yes, it took me a long time of creating to get them to buy in, but my point of all this is if you're in the process, figure out how you're going to bring those numbers to bear. But we didn't need it to get there. But we do need it now that we're there.
That's interesting because from the customers we talk to, it's more typically the reverse of that, where people start very focused in saying, how do I basically get the initial funding to drive this forward? And then once they get it and it starts to catch on, that's when finance gets a little bit less excited about it and says, you know what, you got it, you keep going, keep moving forward. So that sounds like it's almost the reverse sort of, that it starts out and then afterwards, that's when you're asked more for the specifics around the metrics, how you got them, the ROI.
Yeah, and we also had, we had angel funding. We had a director or somebody at a lower level who would say, yeah, buy some cameras and let's see what happens.
See what goes.
So that's another way I think that you can get started in this. But I do know I've gotten much more done by being able to say, oh, let me show you.
Yeah.
Much more than ever saying, here's the 12 charts I'm going to show you on why we should have this system.
Good, thanks. People in the audience that are, yes?
I didn't interrupt you, but I have
Of course, your question is probably better than mine, so go.
I don't know about that. So we're hearing mixed things because some of the sessions earlier were saying, people, consumers today, they're used to sort of really high quality experiences, whether it's the video production quality or just the experience,
Yep.
the simplicity with a solution like YouTube. But what you're saying makes a lot of sense. If you have something tangible, it brings it out of the ether and helps them sort of have a practical application for it. But I guess my question is, I'm intrigued by this approach that you probably used it inadvertently, right? It was small, and then it was small groups, and then now it's enterprise. Is there an argument for sort of rolling out an enterprise solution at the small group level, or would you recommend that type of approach if it were part of the strategy, or just whether you could speak to that?
Yeah, I would highly recommend that as far as a strategy for many reasons. Not only on the technical side, because rolling out an enterprise, you've probably sat in a few of these where we're telling you this is really hard. And it is really hard when you really get to the point of delivering to 50, 60, 100,000 employees. But if you can scale it to a point where you can say, well, let's just see if the local VP can talk to his directors. Let's just see what happens and see if they watch and see if they're interested. I think it takes longer, though. I mean, like I said, 7 years it took me to the point where we now have a modified internal enterprise-wide system. So I think you can get there faster if you go bigger and you have the funding and that type of thing. But if you can't, and I hear that a lot, I hear, well, we can't get the funding or I can't get the support. I had the same problem, and I would definitely, start small. But the other thing I am hearing a lot of is think big, right? So start small, but what if we get there? Can the system we're developing get there? Is it going to have the metrics I need when the CIO comes and says, well, are they using it? So if I can get there, then yeah, start small. I think it's well worth doing that. And like I said, I get much more play over, well, let me show you, than trying to get them to understand it without showing them.
Yeah. Okay.
So first I want to address your statement, kind of needs to be high quality. So I've seen it across the board. Literally, actually, I've seen the opposite. And a former colleague of mine, she was stating this term, good is good enough. Meaning in most cases, it doesn't need to be the fancy, highly polished video, as long as the communication or the message and the speaker is good, right? And if it's really a graph or a process flow, why don't you attach a document where you can print it out or look at it and look at the details, right? So it's also about what do you want to. Video is not for everything. I mean, if you want to go through a highly sophisticated process flow, then don't use video for it, right? So I actually have seen more the opposite. In regards to quantifying upfront what's the return and the cost, it depends also on the audience and the company. I went through the same experience while I was at Microsoft, like some chunk work, and then it literally exploded. But at some point, people will ask. And of course, if you do your homework upfront, and the more you can find out before, it accelerates, the whole process. And you might also avoid some of the pitfalls through trial and error if you have thought about those things before.
I think too, it can be a challenge depending on what kind of quality you've seen or experienced. Because if we kind of have this view that if you don't know any better, it's probably good enough. And I watch how my kids use video, and they use Skype a lot. And it may not be the best quality, but it's good enough for them, right? They don't necessarily need extremely high quality. But if I look across at what we've done internally at Cisco, we kind of brought up an entire generation on telepresence, which was completely in the other direction, right? Very big, very expensive, very high quality. And unfortunately, we set that bar very high, which means it's very challenging now to try and offer a lower quality experience because people are like, well, it's not really that good. So, unfortunately, we kind of spoiled them in the early days. So for those that it's almost the days when you kind of switched over from the big CRT, standard definition TV, to the HD flat screen, it was this great time. But now going back, if you ever get stuck in a hotel room that doesn't have a flat screen, you're like, I'm not staying in this dump again. So you get so used to that experience, and it just becomes kind of second nature. So stepping back can be, at least for us, can be really challenging. Bill,
I know in the training videos, and I'm the producer of the videos. It's a lot of it is Bill Beasley's voice over some slides. Well, what do I look like? So I'm trying to put at the beginning of every slide, and when I re-record them, I will do this, just a picture of who's speaking. And I would like to put at the front of every SPED video just a high-quality introduction of some kind of graphic or a video. That's been put down by another speaker. But I think if you begin the video with something very high quality, the remainder of the middle of the video can be okay, and then you close with something very high quality and has a nice look and feel. And I think that adds a lot to the video. Just who's speaking? Go ahead.
Yeah, I think Jennifer's video is a lot more than just the content of the video itself. That is, YouTube is popular, even though it has lots of crappy videos, but it's crappy videos. You can explore it,
True.
Searching. Find something that's relevant to you, all with very easy way of doing it. So I guess I want to say that I think the solution is more than just the video content. It's everything around it that delivers that video better. It's how you get the right video.
right? I think it's a good point. Is not just the searchability of what the concept is or what the main thing, but even if you're able to kind of search through it, just like as you find a book, right? We're all used to, or a magazine, back to flipping through is easy, but trying to actually get in there and get that content without having to watch a 2-hour video and say, well, I don't know if I'm going to find what I need.
Let me make a comment on return, on low-hanging fruit for enterprise video. I'll use this term, just-in-time training. it's like I can't tell you the number of times I go out and Google for something because I don't know how to do the next step in Word or something like that, and I'll Google a just-in-time little training, and there'll be somebody, some kid, some 9-year-old kid has posted a video on how to do this thing in Adobe, and it's this idea of like everyone's an occasional user, no one's a big power user anymore. They have to do 5 or 6 different applications. So when they get stuck, they want to Google for help, get some help, and get it done. And corporations, I see industrial corporations all the time. They'll have a piece of equipment. How do I remove the pump? Or how do I get that switch out of there? Well, the easiest thing is to do this, this, and this, and take that out and put right. And you take a little video demo. It means all the difference in the world, and it means somebody doesn't make a mistake, and they don't waste time. Yep. And that's the number one thing. Nobody has time to waste.
Yeah. So. Eric, I want to ask you too. So Lockheed Martin, not a small company, 140, 150,000 people. Scalability. How big an issue is that, right? Rolling something out, a solution, features, capabilities out to a couple hundred people, maybe not so hard. Rolling out to tens of thousands or even 100,000 people. Does that weigh into your decisions, your process, how you move forward, how you do pilots in terms of business video?
Yeah, that's actually one of the most difficult things I'm dealing with today, because we've done this slow growth model where we started small, move things up, people become interested, so we get the ball rolling to the point where, let's adopt it as an enterprise standard. We're going to have an enterprise streaming system, and oh, by the way, the network says we don't have enough bandwidth. And so now we're doing catch-up because they weren't involved really in this process. All we did is plug in a server and started streaming, and they didn't say anything, so we kept moving. But that is now that is a problem, so much so that we're now looking at putting in our own CDN because bandwidth is really expensive internally. So instead of having that money spent, we're going to go develop our own network, which is actually working out well because now I've got a network I control that I can scale, and I'm not at the mercy of my network folks to say, okay, we're upgrading 2 years from now, and this is the most number of connections you're going to be able to support. So I absolutely think that actually the presentation that was going on yesterday, previous to this, as far as networking, was interesting in the fact that getting that team together up front, even if you're starting small, so that your network folks know that I'm starting small, but I'm thinking big, right?
Yeah.
I'm only going to do 100 people, but I want 100,000. So how do we get there from here, and is there another technology we have to look at because you're not going to buy bandwidth, or is that the roadmap? Yeah, by the time you get to 100,000, we'll be there. Mm-hmm. So I can say from my experience that my mistake was not having those folks during my growth process, and now we're kind of scrambling to fix that problem. So the scalability it's suddenly become a huge issue.
Okay, thanks. So I think we are running up on time. So I want to do one last closing thing is each get 30 seconds or so. 2 lessons learned from your collective years in video, business video, deployment, what you're trying to do. Think of 2 things that if you said to the audience in here, what are the 2 things you go, these are if I could go back and do it again, I would have done something differently, or I learned through trial and error and here's what worked. Top 2. And you can, whoever wants to be the guinea pig and go first.
I'll go first. I already told you one. I mean, the network is this large, huge, growing beast that I can't control. And the more you get in bed with your network folks so they understand what you're doing, the better off you're going to be. And it's still nothing but issues, but I have people that are really helpful. So that even though maybe they can't solve my problem, they can tell me the direction I can go. And the other thing I already mentioned, which is, just go and build something so that you can show it to some people who might be able to write you a check. And then grow it from there. If you have no other way to start the initiative, that is definitely a great way to start the initiative.
Perfect. Thank you.
I guess the most important thing is concentrate on making the value case to the guy who's going to, I guess, write the check, or the end user. In my case, I have to sell my video content directly to the people who use it, or the people who will acquire it and use it for their internal people. And they value, raising people to the same level of expertise, baseline skills, They value not taking people off the job. They value just-in-time learning. They value time savings. And you know, I've faced that issue over and over again. That's what they value. So whatever I do, I try to have that value in mind.
Okay.
My closing statement goes along the same line. Do your homework in the beginning. Focus on, you know, the values you can create. And it might not be as sophisticated in creating a total cost of ownership analysis, but the more you think about in the beginning, the more you realize, and it helps you accelerating in the deployment later on. And the second thing, I believe you got to do it. I might be biased, but video is exploding in the enterprise, so it's the future. And I wouldn't stand by. I would make a decision, go for it.
Perfect. All right. Thank you very much, gentlemen. I appreciate your insights and sharing your experience and knowledge.